Welcome to tonight's show. My name is Alexa. I'm your head of online community here at Housecall and your host for the Home Service Evening Update. I'm joined by my co-host Roland, Senior Vice President of Innovation and co-founder of Housecall Pro, and Mel, who is our awesome Senior Vice President of People. You can think of us as your in-house business, marketing, and HR strategist, and we're here to help you. So each evening at 5 p.m. Pacific time, Monday through Thursday, we share the state of the world according to the home service industry. Mel updates you on anything you need to know that has happened since yesterday, and then we get into a main topic or guest. So tonight we're so excited to be broadcasting our interview with Barbara Corcoran. We recorded it earlier this week on Tuesday. She's a busy lady, as you can probably tell, but it is an incredible interview. I'll talk more on the topic after the news with Mel. But if you are not yet in our Facebook group, I'm going to drop the link in there. Please join the coronavirus discussion for home services. There's over 2,900 pros in there who are posting and asking questions. And it's just an incredible place to continue the conversations of what is happening in this video call in that group. So Mel, over to you for the news, and then we will be broadcasting our interview with Barbara.
Great. I'm really excited. This is going to be fantastic. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Melina Fairley, Senior Vice President of People at Housecall Pro. Please do feel free to call me Mel. And we do come to you live from our homes Monday through Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific to give you a daily recap. It's not everything going on in the news, but it's the highlights related to coronavirus to keep you informed and give you a sense of certainty that you'll at least get the high-level highlights every night without having to stay glued to the radio while you're out and about. So by way of introduction, I'm not a reporter or a doctor or a specialist in coronavirus. I am an HR professional. I've been doing this work for over 20 years, and I'm a mom of 4, so happy Mother's Day to me. I'm a homeowner, I'm a proud Marine Corps wife, and just truly here to help every night with the home services profession. So with that said, here's your evening update for today, Thursday, May 7th, 2020. The Johns Hopkins dashboard is reporting over 3.8 million global cases.
Yep. And
globally, we're at almost 270,000 deaths and over 1.2 million recovered. So that green number is the happy number. In the US, we're at over 1.2 million cases, over 75,000 people have passed, and we're nearing 200,000 recovered in the US. And to give you some context, some of you who have been with us from the beginning of this broadcast, when we first started doing these evening updates in late March, we reported 30,000 US cases and 400 total US deaths. So that's just been in the time that we've been doing these updates. We've gone from 400 deaths to over 75,000. So just sort of a moment to take that in and let it sink in. This has certainly been a wild ride for us as a nation. According to Johns Hopkins University, who produces that map and is currently tracking coronavirus, in the United States, the overall incidences may appear to have reached a plateau, but this does not necessarily capture the variations in transmission dynamics across the country. So, for example, the New York metro area, so think New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, we know this has been the epicenter of the COVID-19 epidemic in the US. And so when you take that data out, the data for those states in the New York metro area, there's a different trend. So the metro area of New York has a considerable and consistent decline in COVID-19 cases, so that's a good thing, and that's been spanning several weeks. However, the rest of the country has a more concerning upward trend over a similar time period. So some of this may be attributed to increased testing, but likely not all of it. And Johns Hopkins is continuing to monitor those trends, especially in states that have started to ease stay-at-home measures. But we may begin to see indications of changes or impacts because of some of those changes over the next several days, and we'll keep you posted. Social distancing continues to be the thing that we're all talking about. The White House has reportedly rejected a proposed guidance developed by the Centers for Disease Control. So this was meant to assist states in implementing appropriate measures as they begin to relax social distancing. So according to several media reports, including the Associated Press, the CDC presented the White House with a series of recommendations, but reportedly the White House officials viewed the draft as, quote, overly prescriptive. and desiring instead to allow state governments to develop and implement their own requirements. So we keep hearing about the differences by state. I mean, some are even different by county, some are even different by city, and that's one of the reasons. So the White House has not adopted a, one size fits all, policy. So, continue to check with all of your local governments for the directions in your area. And in new legislation, a bill has been introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives that would forgive student loans for frontline U.S. healthcare workers responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. I think most of us have at least one nurse somewhere in our family. So the Student Loan Forgiveness for Frontline Health Workers Act aims to provide further financial support for healthcare workers treating COVID-19 patients. The CARES Act, which passed previously, did suspend federal student loan interest accrual and loan repayments through September of 2020, but no other measures have yet been passed into law. On sports, I don't get to talk about sports too often. My husband is now tuning in from the kitchen.
He's like, sports?
The National Football League, the NFL, my favorite sport, issued guidelines for teams to resume operations at their training facilities. So the NFL directed teams to develop their own plans to reopen their training facilities by May 15th, initially limited to non-player personnel. We're still waiting for a timeline for resuming training and practice with players. That will be determined later. The league is also coordinating with the Players Union to develop appropriate protective measures for players. And the NFL announced that it will debut the tentative schedule for the 2020 season tonight. So that was a few hours ago. I haven't checked to see if that's out yet.
It's there, so if you want to see
it. There you go.
If you download the NFL app right now, you can see the entire season right there.
That's what my husband's doing right now. Go Hawks. Yeah. Nahomish on tonight, my Washington friends, Olympia. So the NFL had previously announced that international games that were scheduled for this upcoming season would be canceled and instead played in the United States. So go check out the NFL schedule and we'll keep you posted when we figure out when they're going to resume training and practice with players. Alexa, what's coming up now?
All right, you guys, it is time for the main portion of programming. My Alexa just went off. Every time. She was excited to hear Barbara.
Mine went off too.
I wonder how many of you pros, when you watch this and someone says my name, it goes off in here. I feel like a lot of people. Okay, so thank you, Mel, for our news update. Now we are so excited to broadcast our interview with Barbara Corcoran. We recorded it on Tuesday morning. Like I said, she's a busy woman. We are so lucky to have had an hour of her time. I hope you guys are ready to learn, be inspired, and just leave feeling like a more motivated person after hearing what she has to share with you. So we're talking all things about building business, building teams, and really just surviving tough times. So we are going to have that broadcasted right now by our lead videographer, JC. And we want to hear what you guys are thinking throughout, so throw it in the chat. We'll be in there too. And then at the end, we'll have a quick little discussion and debrief about our interview with her. And we have a really great downloadable for you. It's the top 10 takeaways from our interview. It's quotes from her. So JC, over to you to share your screen. And you guys, I hope you're ready for a truly incredible interview. We are so lucky.
Thanks again for coming on, Barbara. I think it was a great suggestion, Mark, to have you on, and I'm super excited. So we've got all types of customers. Some of the lady pros that are watching is a subset of our larger customer set, which is, think HVAC contractors, plumbers, electricians, handyman, gardeners, landscapers, all in the home services space. And typically they range from owner operators, so they just got in the business themselves. Some are family run businesses, and they go up to about 20 to 30 employees. So some have built some formidable businesses just in the home services space. And so we started this webcast really as a public service to them, to help them through the tough times, to kind of keep them moving, get them unstuck, and pump them full of ideas and information. And so, obviously when the pandemic hit, a lot of them were greatly affected. Some of them were essential and categorized as essential. We've always considered them as essential, but the government came out and said, hey, we've got to keep these people running to keep our country running. So we obviously have a lot of the non-essential as well. So we've just been having to get creative informative and have guests on and ask them all kind of questions. And our hope is that, you know, these people can literally take some of the things that they learned from here and do one thing tomorrow and, you know, keep them going. So for us, this is a public service, and we're glad to have you on here just to share some of your knowledge, and hopefully they find something, they grab onto it and run with it. So we're gonna ask you a bunch of questions.
Yeah, and they have some great ones for you too. So why don't I give you a quick overview? What's the agenda tonight? And just so you have a sense of what you're getting into on that front too. So kind of 3 key areas of interest for us. The first one, really about you and the model for success. You have had this, you know, living the American dream story, which is an unbelievable narrative, right? You go from being, as your legend says, a waitress, trying to figure it out, you borrow some money, you go and start a real estate company and end up being this titan in the New York market, which that's the toughest market in the world. So lots of our pros love to hear, how did you get there? Like, what were some of the decisions you made? What were some of the influences you had? And how did you invest and believe in yourself to make that dream a reality? So that'd be the first topic. The second one, this one really piqued my curiosity. Mark Cuban said that you are a savant with people, right? Maybe not the numbers as much, or he's more of a numbers guy. I think he was speaking about himself, honestly. He just has such incredible admiration for you on the people side of things. We'd love to dig into that topic a little bit. And the third one is really just let our audience ask you a few questions, if you don't mind, and hopefully you have some great answers. I'm sure you will. We're all really excited to hear them. Does that sound good to you?
Sounds great.
All right, perfect. So let's dive in on this theme of rags to riches, right? So it's a really powerful narrative. It's the American narrative, ultimately. Everyone has a shot at making it big if they're willing to be tenacious, have the grit, have the hustle, and just stay after it. So you've struggled a little bit, it sounded like, when I read, and I think I've heard you say, in your early 20s, and then suddenly you hit pay dirt. Like you go out the backyard, shoot, you hit oil on the ground, and there you are, right? Flush. But it's never that easy, right? What did you say, Barbara?
I like your version of the story a little bit better.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to hear from you. So do you mind just sharing your story with us, and how did you build that real estate empire?
I started my brokerage firm. I was an experienced worker for sure. I'd had, I think, a total of 22 or 23 jobs because I worked since I was 11.
Wow.
So it wasn't like it was my first rodeo. I had kind of done every kind of job, many times as a waitress, but every kind of job you could imagine, menial job. But you learn when you work. And I also had the advantage of being a horrific student. I couldn't learn to read or write. So what I couldn't do in the classroom, I welcomed outside the classroom, and I learned to use my mouth versus my reading ability or mathematical skills, which I still don't have.
Well, that's right. You could obviously done pretty well without them, but you figured out how to communicate, it sounds like, is one of your areas of interest.
In fact, on Shark Tank, Mark, which they edit out, does all my math for me. I say, figure out that percentage. He's always doing my math, so he's a sweetheart about it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
But when I started my brokerage firm, I had the huge advantage of having nothing to fear and nowhere to go but up. I didn't have parents expect anything of their 10 kids more than we grow up to be nice people. That's all they said. Be nice, be nice. That was their goal for us. Be nice people. And so without that monkey on my back, which so many kids have, well-educated, successful parents, I was free as a bird to fail. And so I thought, why not? Let me try this one. I've tried 22, 23 other jobs. I'll give this a whirl. But on the first day in the business, I knew it was for me because it was like playing, not working. I was free, no one giving me hours to work. I made my own hours, and I trucked people all up and down Manhattan Island, a city I knew nothing about, and talked all day, which is what I was good at.
Yeah.
And they trusted me, and they should have because I was trustworthy. And so renting apartments in the early 70s, I just had a knack for doing it because basically I really wanted to make my customer happy, and I did.
Yeah.
Before I got commissions. I think that was.
So were you intentional about that, Barbara? I mean, early on, were you just obsessed about the customer experience? And I say that it's a bit of a leading question. We talk about that with our pros all the time, is that most people can't tell you whether the work is good. Like the light goes on, it doesn't go on. The air goes on, it doesn't go on. But they really understand how the experience felt to them. And so, and you know, the great pros obsess around that customer experience. Was that your mindset early on?
Well, I would like to say yes to you because I think that's what I'm supposed to say, but not at all. It's the truth.
Interesting.
When I was working with the customers, I had one single-minded focus: control. I wanted to control their time so they couldn't work with any other agents. And so I would meet them at 10:30 in the morning and not drop them off till 3:30 because it was too late to make another appointment with anybody else. So I would always had the idea, I'm going to park them in my garage and I'm not going to let them out until they take something.
That's awesome.
Really what I had in my mind. But did I do a thorough job and a quality job? Of course I did. Because all too often I didn't have a lot of listings. You know, I was a one-man band, and they were the huge companies in the market then had 30, or I think the largest had 40 agents. To me, that was like looking up at IBM, real estate wise. And so I didn't have a lot of listings, so I had to spend a lot of time giving tours until I could turn up the listings, like, let's take a tour of this area, that area. I want you to be totally knowledgeable. And they were well educated by the time I got through with them, because I was very often buying time to try to get a listing to show them, you know? Yeah. But either way, people did respond well, and they sent their friends to me. The greatest compliment in any business, and the only insurance policy that you will survive and grow, is when people refer. And that's true of every industry. The more people that refer, it's your report card in real life, in business, that allows you to dictate really how far you're going to go. And I knew that people were referring lots of people to me. I had a hard time keeping up with people. Honestly, I had that many customers referred very, very soon, early in the game. The real challenge, and what became my forte, building the business, and then I'll leave it there. That's kind of like the end to the story, sort of, is I knew that I didn't want to stay in sales once I had it down. I did it for about 2 years renting apartments. And then I realized, I don't want to do this. I know it. I don't want to do it. I got bored easily, you know? And so I realized the only way out of that is to hire people to replace me. And I hired my first person. Hiring your first person when you're in any kind of a trade, I think, is the hardest hire in the world because you don't know what you're doing. You want someone to do it as well as you do it. And then I learned the very valuable lesson that 80% is good enough. And I became very, very good at hiring people. Hiring talented people, seeing what their talent was, getting them to believe in it, because I believed in it, and seeing how far they could go. And so I was good at inspiring people, putting people in the right jobs, and I was extremely good at delegating once I realized I didn't need perfection, because perfection gets in the way of business growth. I like everything just so. Just talk to my husband, Bill. He'll confirm that. But in business, you can only get someone who's going to do it 80% as good as you, and that's good enough, because it's on those people that you will build an empire. And that's what I did for the rest of my career until I actually sold the business.
So is that then, I refer to as a superpower. I heard you say a superstar trait. So your real gift is you're really good at selling, communicating, but that was easy for you. Look, kind of like breathing. It sounds like your superpower is ability to recognize talent and get their best work for them. Is that how you would describe it? Or you tell me in your words.
No, I think I was just very good always, even as a child, a very young child, at seeing the gray between the lines because I was a terrible student. When you're in a situation where you're, like, my idea of hell on earth was being called on to read out loud in front of my classmates of 40 some odd kids because they laughed because I couldn't read. And so what that teaches you is how to dance between the raindrops, how to go undercover, how not to be found out. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. As much of a struggle that is as a child, what it teaches you as an adult, or what you come into your adulthood with, is a special gift. And I think it's true of just about everyone who struggles early on in life with whatever they're struggling with. But certainly for me and my two brothers who had the same disability, you become excellent in empathy because you can't look down at anyone ever if you've walked in the shoes of the loser or the kid that wasn't wanted. You know what I mean? What happens is you can feel the pain in people. I remember really in building my business, I could walk through a sales pit, as we called it, 100 agents on one floor plate, side by side, all buzzing. I could walk through and feel a vibe. and stop in my track and turn around and realize I felt the vibe of that agent over there. Something was wrong. And I go over and say, hey, how you doing? And I just got them that day when they were thinking of giving up. I could just feel it. But I think empathy is what you get from early struggle. You get empathy for people. And I think that's all it is. I think I have a great empathy. I could pick up people's vibe very easily. Yes. Yeah.
What an amazing gift, that sensitivity. I'll come back. I have some other questions about kind of people and some of that sixth sense you had in a few minutes. But this idea of luck, like I'm going back to the idea of rags to riches, this incredible arc to your story. How much is it luck? How much of it is hard work? Do you believe in one or the other or something else?
No, I believe in certainly hard work. I mean, I don't think you'll ever meet anyone who works harder than me. To this day, I don't have to work at all. No, hard work. But you need the hard work to get through the bad luck. Everybody has their share of luck. Everybody gets lucky breaks, okay? But it's having the work ethic to work through the bad luck. That's what counts. Because if you're going to be in business for yourself, it's really an eternal journey of not only opportunity, but before the opportunity arises, it's an eternal journey of overcoming obstacles. That's what business is. It's overcoming obstacles as creatively, as directly, and as persuasively as you can. And if you can have the work ethic to just power through those bad times that are plenty of, it's like a marriage, you know? Is it a whole... And wine, I don't think so. But it's the power to be committed that you're going to go through it no matter what, you know, that gets you to the happy dinner out once in a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's great advice also, particularly, you know, as anybody building a startup, you're going to see a lot of failures. And so it's not just bad luck, but it's the inevitable failures. And you know that you're not even trying hard enough if you don't have some of those failures because you're not really pushing those boundaries. I feel like that's something that you've said often in many different ways across the podcast, on a Shark Tank, and you're always encouraging that for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, to that end, you've got a podcast and you share interesting tips. Sometimes you do interviews. Sometimes they're the call-ins, which is fun to listen to as well. But there's a couple themes that come up very often that I feel like you keep coming back to. One of them being survive through change.
I didn't know I had themes.
It's almost like as you do it, because you've been doing it for so long, I feel like it's almost just natural and it comes out through the podcast. And one of those is the survive through change. And obviously everyone's going through a lot of change right now, regardless of who you are or what you're doing. There's, creating a great opportunity in every crisis, which is obviously now. And then the big one that I feel is the only bad move is not to make a move. And we're always encouraging our pros, hey, you know what? Don't just sit there and go, woe is me, and, collect on, unemployment, make something of it and move forward. So what kind of advice maybe around some of those themes do you think are particularly useful for our home service kind of customers that are, for lack of a better word, some of them aren't even allowed to do some of the work? Like, what do you suggest? What are some words of wisdom that you can kind of impart on them?
Well, of course, it depends entirely on what is your niche or your industry. So I couldn't give a specific example to a plumber or a carpenter. But what I can say is that even if you cannot work, if you're forbidden to put in the new kitchen cabinets, if that's your trade, you can stay in touch with your customers. And if you're not staying in touch with your customers, you're out of your mind. Let me give you an example that happened to me here. We have around the corner a UPS store. And we have 2 blocks on the other side of me, almost equal, another UPS store. And when I closed my office down very quickly and had people work from home, I have a need for mail services, package deliveries, things of that sort to stay in business. One person is closed, so is the other person closed. They weren't allowed to be open initially. But I got a call on my cell phone from one of the entrepreneurs. He said, I just want you to know, Barbara, I'm here for you. I didn't even know who I was talking to. I guess it's the guy that owns that store. He said, I'll come to your building. I'll pick up packages. I'll figure out the postage. You could pay me later. I just want you to know I am here to service you. I'll do anything to make you happy to service you. I want to service all my customers. He called every single customer he ever had. Is that guy going to stay in business? Yeah, he just opened last week. The other guy's, his sign is still closed until later notice. I didn't hear from that guy. Okay, you got to stay in touch with your customer. If you can fix a toilet, I guess, not that I want to learn how to fix a toilet myself. I just this pandemic, don't like it very much. Okay. You can certainly let all your customers know you're available on FaceTime and teach them how to do it, or whatever the most common requests that customers make that are on the simple side of things. You can make that available. You can find a way. It's more than anything, it's an attitude that, yes, you are still in business and you're living for the future versus, oh, you're waiting for things to return as to what has happened in the past. Wrong headset. Never gets you anywhere in business. And in worse times, it's a death toll. You cannot wait for things to resume, because when you get through this, you're going to find that they don't resume. Nothing comes out of a tragic area, a tragic period without undergoing extreme change. All industries will be changed. And so if you can stay in touch with your customers and kind of like be doing what you can possibly do, finding a way to offer something, you will have your ear to the ground, and you'll be able to spot change faster and know what road might work, what you could do differently. But if you're just sitting it out and waiting it, you might as well really just decide to throw in the rag and save your overhead, because what's going to happen is the smart people are going to come out on the other side with a lot of ideas, and a lot of them will be already enacted, already put in place, or at least the framework's done. And you're going to just then decide then, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll go out and I'll sell my cabinets again. No, it ain't going to happen that way. Everything's going to be changed. And for those victors, the people who in bad times became warriors as entrepreneurs, and that's what you have to do in bad times. You have to be a warrior. For those people who come out, the rewards are wonderful. You're going to have less competition. Not everybody's going to come through bad times. I learned that in when interest rates went up to 18%. I learned that in the debacle with the mortgage crises. I learned that 9/11. What was great is when I came out the other side, I forgot about it each time. It was like I had less competitors. So I was food chain just by working hard and staying in touch and making sure I was reinventing my business in every little nuance. And so far as reinventing your business goes, I think an entrepreneur who believes that it's on their back is crazy. If you've got 6 people, you've got 6 idle minds. I'm telling you, I got my best ideas in business, my most creative ideas, very often from the receptionist versus the manager. Get everybody thinking, brainstorming, anything goes. Or throw out anything, everything counts, because you don't know where your ideas come from. And if you're in touch with your customers, you can ask them too. They'll give you great ideas, okay? So it's about really staying in the game, totally 150% in the game, even if you can't do the business, because you're gaming for that future date. That's what you're after. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, just that mindfulness towards constant innovation and really that creativity. And then also not just relying on yourself. Although you might be the owner, you might be the boss, you're not the one that's supposed to be in charge of always coming up with the new ideas. And I think there's something that you've done in the past with your reports, with your people in your business to encourage them to give ideas. What are some ways that our pros can encourage their people to bring ideas and maybe not feel judged for bringing ideas? No bad idea, no good idea. What are some tips to encourage this creativity?
Well, the earliest device I used to encourage creativity, and then I'll bring it right to today, which I'm doing now, was to establish a shoebox in every office I opened with a slot on top, and it had a light bulb painted on it, and it said good ideas $1. And so anyone could drop any idea into that box. I even found it was helpful for the complainers that you will often get in any organization. They come to complain about something. I say, you give that some thought and tell me what the solution is. I'm putting that idea box. And I would publicly hand out the dollars at every Monday sales meeting. It might sound hokey. Today, that would be the equivalent of $10 an idea, maybe, right? Okay, but coming full circle to today, I have staff who are all young, smart, well, younger than me, I should say, smart, creative, aggressive, because I have a fabulous team. It's not a weak link among them. But even if half were great and half weren't, I would do the same thing. But what I do is I'm on Zoom with them once a week or sometimes twice a week saying, okay, what can we do? Any ideas? How can we reach out? How can we replace this piece of business we lost that ain't ever going to come back? That's what I feel about every piece of business that's come into my media company now. It came in, guess what, guys? It ain't ever coming back. What else can we do to replace that? Where else can we make money? What's the new version of that same thing that we used to get paid so well for? Everybody's brainstorming, and then no fear of failing. Let's throw it out there and see if anybody bites. We throw more crap out there, but who cares? Somebody's going to bite, and then all of a sudden you see where your traction is, and that's not going to happen with me doing a lot of reading or me sitting in my castle thinking all day long of what my genius idea is. I don't think I ever had a genius idea. All I ever did was make people free to give their ideas. And then the other thing I always found was so useful and good for all your trades is all the innovation never comes from your own industry. That's what I learned. I never looked to the big brokers that when I had my first 100 people, 500 people, I never looked at the brokers who had 2,000 like they were more genius than me. No, the little guy has the corner on creativity. And so I would look across to different industries that had nothing to do with real estate and see if I could apply what they were doing in my own industry. That's how I stole a lot of ideas. They were never mine. So one, from your team, and two, cross-fertilization from different industries because no one else is looking there. They tend to tunnel vision their own industry. People do by nature. You know, you want to do the same thing. You want to do it better, and who's doing it better? What's my competitor doing? You won't get anything brilliant that way. You get really out of the box thinking. If you could look at the airline industry, what do they do? What does that have to do with plumbing? I don't know, but there's some cross-fertilization there. They're doing something that you could do a little knockoff of. And I found that enormously helpful in my ability to innovate. It wasn't me, it was the company innovated because we had the forum for innovation and the structure to welcome it, you see?
Yeah,
so
I think
culture statement there, sounds like, right?
What did you say? I'm sorry.
You create a culture, it sounds like, that really, that people were willing to take the risk of bringing their ideas forward, knowing they wouldn't be judged good or bad, but you are just surfacing good ideas, good information all the time. And that it sounds like you're not requiring people to be Steve Jobs and be the hyper innovator, just be clever.
I'm sure if you had the lowdown on Steve Jobs, I'd like to guess how many were his ideas. Probably not. Most largest businesses are very good at pirating ideas where they can find them, without a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah, and repurposing them.
Yes.
I think for the pros watching, you have a really unique opportunity to learn from others who aren't in your industry. As Barbara said, looking across the way, if you're a plumber, there's a carpet cleaner in there who's sharing a marketing idea that is just working for them right now in coronavirus. Take that and twist that. That is what this community is for. So please go into the Facebook group and start reading between the lines of what other people are doing. Don't just dismiss it because they don't do the same thing that you do.
You know, the very first idea I stole, it just popped into my head now. Such a simple idea. Were door knockers on a townhouse or walk-up buildings, which everyone young lived in a walk-up tenement house, you know. But they were door knockers hung on the door by a company named ABC Locksmith, and it simply said, "Need a locksmith? Call ABC." I stole that idea, and when I went into an apartment to show one apartment, I didn't leave until I hung knockers on 200 apartments. I got so much direct response. I didn't get that from any real estate agent. I got it from the local locksmith. And I mean, I just say that because it gives you an example of how easy it is to really get an idea and do something with it, you know? By the way, one thing I want to mention, on the Good Idea box, I failed to tell you that on Monday, I opened the box in front of the agents in that particular office, read the idea, and whether they were good or bad, they got the dollar. And so I equalized good and bad ideas and kept them coming. Yeah.
I think that's a fabulous idea. And we're going to talk more about how to get your employees motivated. So we'll save that for a little bit. But all of you pros should be having idea boxes in your office. I think at one point we had an idea box, but we're a crazy startup, so it's somewhere in our office. It's lost, but we're always sharing ideas.
No one's in their office right now, so you could certainly accomplish the same on Zoom without a doubt.
Yeah.
So, Barbara, if you don't mind, I'd love to go back to the topic of people and hiring and management. And I say that because we do these mastermind events where we go and set up a day-long experience for our pros. They come for a community, they come to learn from their peers. They also just come to learn about different topics. Hiring and people practices, obviously, often the most confounding. Here's a little bit of context why. A lot of our pros are really good at doing the work themselves. They figured out how to be successful as a one-person shop, but ultimately they're an army of one, and they get to a point they say, okay, you know what, I've got to make that first hire. As daunting as that is, I've got to get someone else to come work with me in this business, so I really want to get some scale behind it. But it's an overwhelming idea because they good at the work, good at selling, but can they go feed somebody else? Can they take care of somebody else? And how do they go find that person in the first place? Clearly, you've been exceptional at this. Do you have any insight or any ideas for our pros on thinking about hiring and management for a process from a philosophy on that front?
Well, I have a philosophy of who I like to hire, regardless of what business I'm in and what I want to accomplish. Number one and foremost, I only hire happy people. Early in my career, I hired a couple of, when I was able to attract a real salesman in versus somebody who had no experience, I was able to attract a really good salesperson who was negative, but a real good seller. And I thought, oh, I'll teach her how to be happy. She'll fit in here because I can make anybody happy. Well, I found out if her mother and father couldn't make her happy and she was miserable, I didn't have a chance of making her happy. I gave up that philosophy and decided just to hire happy people. I'll tell you why something as simple as happy is important. Happy people are team players by nature. They collaborate well. They're less territorial. And they create a can-do attitude just by nature of their sunny disposition. It's not that you don't need people who are critical. You need critical thinkers to grow a business and compete. But it's a disposition toward pleasantness. And also, I wanted to be happy. I came from a very happy family of 10 kids, so we were really a happy family. And I didn't want any unhappiness around me when I grew up, right? All right, so that would be one. Make sure you hire happy people. And then the other thing that I really do practice and will always practice, because I discovered it early on and I made it a guide for myself, which is there's really only two kinds of people at work. By nature, they're either expanders or containers. Expanders, stereotypical salesman who's blustering, what can I do, what can I do, oh, I know we're going to make that deal, That's an expander. What can I do differently, blah, blah, blah. That's my nature. I'm a very excellent expander. Then there is the container, equally important business. The person who's going to anticipate that money coming in, not spend it, figure out what they need it for, put a system in place, make sure you have insurance, and make sure your files are in order. It's not unimportant. If you're going to repeat the same function again in your business, whether you're one and you want to grow to 3 people, you need systems. That's a container. So that I learned to, in an interview process or even meeting someone, because I usually recruited whoever I met, I got them to come work for me if they were good. But in meeting people, you should ask yourself, are they an expander or container by their nature, by their very nature? And people are one or the other. I don't find people are both. That's what I have found. And so I found my business partner, Esther Kaplan, and that might be something worth considering. She was the ultimate container. She was as strong in that area as I was strong as an expander. And that's why we were able to build such a big business. I guess if you didn't have the ability to hire people, you didn't have the ability to juggle, and you didn't have the ability to inspire, those are a certain category of gifts that tend to come with expanders. Maybe find yourself a partner who is an expander. Yeah. You know, but you will not build a business unless you can hire people and manage them well. How are you going to build a business if not through people? I don't care what you do for a living. You build an empire on the backs of the people that support you. And you've got to choose the right ones that are able to build that pyramid and get you higher and higher and higher as a business.
That makes so much sense. I mean, otherwise you are just a one-person army, right? There's only so much work you can do in a 24-hour day. So you really need the leverage of other people to scale. And I really like that comment about a partner, right? Because if you're self-aware enough to know these are my strengths and what my weaknesses are, and if I can find the right person to match up with that, then we're unstoppable at that point.
And everybody knows someone. It doesn't mean that you have to be partners forever. My partnership happened to work for the 22 years I built the business. But I have seen with my entrepreneurs from Shark Tank, many of them have unsuccessful partnerships and go out of business. But they were going to go out of business either way. It wasn't the partnership that ruined it. But of all of my most successful entrepreneurs that I've invested in, they're all partnerships, every one of them. And I tend to be biased toward wanting to invest in partnerships because it's hard to get everything in one person. Think about it. All the skill sets, you could hire the right skill set, but you need a sizable firm to be able to do that. I'll hire my own attorney. I'll hire my own draw organizer. I'll hire my own accountant. You need to have size. You need to have already expanded a bit to get to that point in your career. But you can find a partner who's opposite to you. So I always think it's a good idea, and I do this with my entrepreneurs. Sit down and write a list of what you're good at, and then try to find someone who's good at the stuff you're not good at. It sounds simple, but it's really true.
It's hard to do though, right? I mean, to be able to take that risk and really look at yourself and say, this is what I'm good at. And I really have some areas to work on. Like I love working with Roland, right? He's an idea factory. I'm more the container guy. I'll just scale something once he's proven the 0 to 1 part of it.
I could have told you that on your first hello.
I'm sure you could. It's never surprised you on that front. But I love that idea. It's such a wonderful thought to find the right container, or right partner.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
So as a fellow expander, now that you define, I'm for sure an expander. I'm not good at math, not good at stats, don't like it, but I sure surround myself with people who are good at it and who can help me. But I can create ideas out the yin yang, And it's for me as an employee of Housecall, Roland is my boss, and he's a boss who really motivates me and he encourages my creativity. And if I have an idea, maybe it's not that good, we work on it together. So my question to you, in an interview you did with Guy Raz on How I Built This, my favorite interview with you, you talked about some incentives you've used over the years to motivate your people. Would you mind sharing some of your ideas on that front? I know our pros are always looking for ideas for how to incentivize their techs.
I think we all tend to think you motivate through money, and money counts. If you can pay someone more than the next guy, you got a better shot at keeping that employee happy. But equally important, and I used it even when I had money, I still used it instead of money, is recognition. If there is one thing that people yearn for, is to be recognized for a job well done, for a good idea, for helping out, any positive thing where the hand goes out, anything that they accomplish, I believe you should find a way of recognizing it and be acutely aware of how needy people are for recognition. I've been making dinners night after night. I'm not a great cook, but I've been trying my heart out in this pandemic with my husband, Bill. And he gives me one compliment every 2 weeks. I say, how's the great chicken I made last night? He goes, okay. All right. Am I motivated? I'm probably going to throw a raw hamburger at the man tonight, I would say. Okay, am I that needy for a compliment? Of course I am. We all are, okay? So I created systems once the business got bigger to make sure recognition happened in an automatic fashion. Boom, bada boom, bada boom. It was never forgotten. So as an example, I know it sounds like a silly thing, but when someone made a deal, I had a hippopotamus memo that went out. When you used to have copy machines, I put one on every desk, and I put on top of it another big one and put the agent who made the deal and what the deal was. And I would drop it on the desk. Some days I'd have 2 on every desk. Some days it would be 4 on every desk. I remember one agent bringing in a stack and saying to me, if I have to see one more hippo on my desk, I'm going to shoot you. But what was I after, really? I wanted to give the recognition. That's like a double-edged sword there. I wanted to give the recognition to people making deals. And I wanted to give the impression that deals were everywhere. Deals were everywhere. And you didn't make one? Okay. I had gold crowns. That sounds silly. But I would put a gold crown on someone's head for an amazing deal. I would tell the one superstar that the next superstar, did you hear about her deal? What deal? And I would give them the details. Jealousy, wonderful motivator.
Mm-hmm.
But then I would have people stand up and tell them about the details of the deal. One of the best recognition things I did in the business that totally changed my business around from being a low price firm to a premium firm. Nothing more than a simple gimmick. I announced one sales meeting that anyone who made a deal over $1 million was going to get a gold ribbon. How amateur is that? But I got big horse ribbons, you know, the kind they put on the side of the horse. And the middle said $1 million, 1000000, or however many they are. And I said, whoever makes the first $1 million deal is going to get this ribbon. People laughed me off my box that I used to stand on. They laughed. But one new agent, a young guy, got turned on, and he got the Guggenheim listing for $1.6 million on Park Avenue from his the guy in his dental office that cleans his teeth. What do you call those people?
Dental hygienist, yeah.
Culture specialist.
All right, his hygienist knew the chauffeur from Mrs. Guggenheim and made the introduction. Go figure. But when he raced in with his first $1 million listing, I had him stand on the box and announced, Ron Rossi has just made the $1 million first listing, and here's his gold ribbon. People hated Ron. Within a year, you were nobody if you didn't have gold ribbons on your bulletin board in front of your desk.
Mm-hmm.
It's a culture. It was recognition. That's all that did it. I think I paid 50 cents a ribbon, custom printed. I had 1,000 of them. Sooner or later, I was printing them 5,000 a piece. You know, I know I'm not making fun of anyone. I say it from the viewpoint of myself. I love recognition. You give me a compliment, I'll do anything for you.
Same.
And I'm not unlike most of the people out there. You know, you have to institutionalize, you must institutionalize the repetitiveness and the touch, the many touch points of recognition if you plan to build a well-motivated business. Mm-hmm. Because recognition is as important as the money you pay people. I'm convinced of it.
Mm-hmm. An example, so I used to be on the customer success team at Housecall Pro, and I too am just extremely motivated by recognition, someone saying, hey, Alexa is doing a killer job. We used to have these laminated badges with like different goals that we could achieve. So who made the most calls, who helped the most pros this week, who sent the most texts. And then on the sales side, we have this gong that's like annoying for people who aren't in sales, but it's really great recognition for them to hit the gong when they make their first deal. And I'll tell you, I had those laminated badges all over my desk so everyone could see that I was doing an amazing job. And then we got to turn those in for swag. You can absolutely do that in your home service business. Oh, I have so many Housecall Pro Lululemons. I have, what else? The Patagonias. We stopped doing that. Kind of cost a lot of money, but it was fun while it lasted. So there's an idea for you guys.
It also keeps people focused, which is the whole idea.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So next question for you, Barbara. Just recently, you've been talking a lot about just finding opportunity in crisis. I think it's important for our pros to really understand what you mean by that. So maybe you can kind of grow on that and tell them a little bit more about what you meant.
Yeah, well, I think we touched a little bit earlier on that same topic.
Yeah.
You know, crisis mixes up the playing board is what it does. Okay, everything that came before, the rules change, the players change, the chips change, the needs of the customer change. I mean, it's the idea, for example, if I had a retail dress shop in my neighborhood, and there's a great one that I actually got this beautiful dress from, I frequent, I do not believe they will open up again. I'm sad for that because I ran into the principal and she's waiting for the clouds to clear to open her shop safely. And she does not have deep pockets. When I spoke to her on the street from 10 feet away, I walked away and I thought to myself, I feel so badly, not that she's not going to open up, but I feel badly that she didn't think to suggest to me, how about I drop off 3 dresses at your doorman that have your name all over it? I know what you like. She knows what I like. Now she knows my colors, my cuts. Why didn't she think of that, to drop off 3 dresses at my doorman? I could have tried them on and maybe made a sale. She could be like the Avon lady of dresses. She's got old local customers, probably within 10 city blocks. That's it. That's her trade. She didn't think of that. Okay. So who will get the opportunity? The person when she goes out of business, God willing she doesn't, but let's say she goes out of business and she has exorbitant rent there. The retail sector is suffering across all boards, all cities. Those rents that you see on street level anywhere in America are going to be worth so much less when we come through this crisis. And some other dressed person is going to open a shop there, probably 2/3, maybe even half the rent. Lower overhead, smaller, larger margins for herself. She's going to be the victor, or he's going to be the victor, and that lady's going to be history. Okay, that's the difference between opportunity ceasing it. It's a headset. It's a headset. It's really what it is. It sounds like mumble jumbo kind of stuff. I'm not saying that, but it's a difference between her headset and that the UPS guy, the Kinko guy rather, that called me and hustled me, and I've been in and out of his shop, dropping it off, just leaving it on the curb. He runs out, smiles, locks the door, takes my package. Who's going to be in business, okay? Who's going to have a bigger business and probably open a second shop? I bet that Kinko guy will. And who has lost that space to that Kinko guy who will probably get it discounted space, which her dress shop used to be. Probably that Kinko guy. There's always a victor in a war, and there's a loser. And that's exactly what we have right now. So, not that you want to wish nobody should lose, because people pour themselves into their business, They take risks. I mean, why would you have even gone into business if you don't want to take risks and you want to hustle? That's what it's all about. But that's what I mean by that. There's opportunity everywhere. Opportunity everywhere. It's funny, I've been looking up and down the streets and thinking, and I'm going to brainstorm on it with my group this afternoon, because I'm in the real estate trade and I should have the idea, but I've learned long ago I don't have the good ideas. Everybody has the good ideas. But I've been looking at these retail spaces and realizing more than half are going to be empty and stay empty, maybe forever. That's what I think as a result of this. And what other use could that be on street front? What other use could make of it? How can I make an investment out of that? What could I do? Yeah, and I keep thinking there's going to be an opportunity. That kind of thinking and looking at everything at the end. How do I fit in? How do I fit in? So again, I say it's more of an attitude toward the future, which I think I mentioned a little bit earlier. Yeah.
Sorry, Roland. Something you said on the coronavirus episode of your podcast was, you have to be the hero when you come out of this, but also taking this time to dream and reimagine what your business is going to look like after this. And that was something that really stuck out to me. And that's a theme that we've been trying to weave through these broadcasts now for the past 8 weeks. Don't just sit there. Think about who your new ideal customer is. Think about the different marketing techniques you're going to be putting forth right now, not after this, right now. So that was something that stuck out to me on this same note.
And I might say one other thing. If you really can't think of how your business might change or what the customer's need is going to be. And that's the root of every business. What the customer needs is what the business is about. You could really survey your customers. You've done work with them before. You can dig out your files for the last 6 years and say, hey, remember me, Joe, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking at my business and I wonder if you could spend a few minutes with me. You've got goodwill established there. People won't hang up on you. And you could just pirate ideas from all your customers' brains when they say, well, I'll never go into a cabinet shop again because I realize I've been shopping online. You could really walk in their shoes and get good ideas. I have no doubt if you'll take the time to do that and believe that they're there to be had, which they are.
Yeah, and I think just talking to your customers, but also potentially selling your customers, potentially something that doesn't even exist yet, just to gauge their feedback. So we do this too. We call it feature fakes. And so we say, hey, we're building this thing, and we see how many people sign up. And if a ton of people sign up and they're willing to pay for it, they go for it. And if they don't, then we don't build it. So I feel like there's a lot of goodwill, like you had mentioned, that all of you guys should just be thinking about, just utilizing it, because now is the time to go cash all that stuff in. Mm-hmm. So I feel like we've got a lot. I mean, we posted some, hey, what would you ask Barbara? We got a couple hundred responses. So we have hundreds of questions, and even live here now, we've got some. So maybe Alexa, if you want to go through some of the top voted ones or ones that we think are going to be really cool and really, really clever.
Absolutely. So this was very hard for me. I spent my whole morning choosing the questions for this, but these are the top 3 that I think will encompass everyone's question. So this one is from Angela Moreno. What would you do with that $1,000 today that you got at the beginning of your career that you built your multi-million-dollar business into?
You mean if I had 1,000 now for a different business?
Yes.
Well, I'd have to give that some thought. I'd probably come up with a list of 50 ideas. But the first one that came into my mind, if that's because in the interest of time, is I would probably open an apple stand on the corner, because there's no rules against having a stand of fruit on any corner of Manhattan, as long as the footprint is less than 4x4. And I would sell apples and call them clean apples, or I'd wrap them in tissue paper, and I put never touched by human hands, picked with tissues from a tree. I'd have some marketing ploy. I'd double my money, because I'd probably have a markup of 50% or whatever I could get away with. Yeah. Now I would bring my trade to where people are and tailor my pitch to what people are afraid of, to cover that fear, and try to give them a healthy something that's going to make them happy. I would think I'd have to give that some thought, needless to say. I wouldn't spend my $1,000 that readily. So
on apples, got it.
But after I had 50 ideas, I'd pick one, and I'd probably have 5 good ones, you know? Yeah.
Well, I still think there was a golden nugget in there for all of you pros. You may not be selling apples, but you have sanitation and cleaning supplies no matter what industry that you're in. Spend some time marketing those. If I saw anything that's like your apartment's gonna be sparkling clean, no coronavirus, I'd buy it. Wrapped in tissue paper, I'd buy it. So there was some golden nuggets in there.
There's also this theme, Alexa, that think about your positioning, think about your marketing, right? And the messaging there that you're talking about, Barbara, is, hey, look, I can give you a safe option, right? I've thought about you, my customer. Here's what I've done for you, and to make this a safe opportunity for both of us, right? And that mindset was a big deal for a lot of our pros to figure out early on. They can't just use old messaging. It's a whole new world now in COVID-19. They got to change everything about how they sell and position their offering. So that's a good kernel too.
So I'll be quick with these 2 questions to be respectful of your time, but I thought this was a really, really good one from Bree Bales. What do you look for when deciding what service-based customer you use in your life?
Again, I hire the people, you know. I always go for recommendations. Like I needed a dog groomer because if my dog's hair is any longer, he's going to trip on himself. I'm tired of bathing him and combing him. It's all knotting. So I really need a dog groomer. My regular guy is closed for business. Haven't heard from him. I called. There's not even a message on his machine. Like, sorry, we're not here. You're a loyal customer. Okay. And so I called a few of my friends and said, anybody know a good dog groomer? I found one this morning and biked my dog across the park and dropped him off on the west side. He's a great dog groomer. I wasn't necessarily going to leave him with my dog if I didn't like him, even though I had an appointment. I left my dog in my basket until I sized up the guy. But within 10 seconds, I said, what a winner. This guy's twice as good as my old guy. He owns me already, okay? My dog is getting groomed happily as we speak, and I have no doubt it'll be fabulous. It was his dedication to wanting to please. That was so obvious, okay? And that's typically the route I will do. I always ask for recommendations, and then I interview in a phone call. And how do I interview in a phone call? Not so much what you charge, what do you charge? Oh, do you clean furniture too, or just carpets? Not that kind of thing. I usually get on the phone and I interview as though I'm hiring them, like for my company. How you doing? You know, Francine recommended me to you. Have you worked with her very long? Do you know which Francine? And then you get a feel for the individual. You can sense quality individuals, I think, if you just ask a few questions. And then that's how I hire everything through referral and then through a brief interview, trying to get the person as relaxed as I can get to talk about other than factual answers, because factual answers just give you the facts. It's not really what you're after a person. And the kind of great questions give you the sense of the individual, I think.
Mm-hmm. That's such a great point. You're not just doing business with them. It's not just transactional. You're starting hopefully with a lifelong relationship with this customer. So keep that in mind when you're talking with them, especially right now. Barbara's not going to be calling her old dog groomer anymore. Be that person, but in plumbing.
I give him an answer on his answering machine because I know he's not checking it. I'm not even going to give them a tip.
And so for our last audience question, this is from Josh Wagman. Do you have any advice or keys to balance on growing a business and a successful family life?
Yes, you have to divide your time. I have managed to do that. I value fun as much as I value my business. As I love to have success, but I want a very fun-filled life with my friends and my family. And so this would be hard to identify with it now considering the environment we're in. But I plan my vacations every 6 weeks without fail. Every 6 weeks I was on vacation. And you know what I found? I found that I not only had a ball on the vacation, regardless of how much money or how little money I had to spend, but I had 6 weeks to look forward to it. Not only that, I knew in 6 weeks I was pulling out, created a psychological deadline to get stuff done. So I won by that all the way around. And when I went on vacation for the week, I refreshed my mind, my body, my sense of fun. And I came back with lots of ideas. I never had a good idea at my desk, my own ideas, never once. I always had great ideas when I was playing. And in fact, I might add that for the people in my organization then and now, this business currently, I make sure I have fun with them. It's such an important card. If you want to be an innovator, you have to have fun with your people. I don't mean just the Christmas party, which is so boring. Oh, Merry Christmas. Let me toast you. You're wonderful. Nah, people have enough of that in their life. I'm talking about a drag party, or ride an elephant, hop on the back of a motorcycle, something really fun. If you keep people out having fun, you will have the innovative company. That I'm convinced of. I've done it again and again and again. Okay. So that's, I would just say those few things.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, I find myself in the position of not remembering what your question was.
Once again, I find myself in a position just eating up whatever you're saying. I don't even know what we asked. It was about work-life balance, but you would absolutely love it at Housecall. Roland, we had a giant Nerf gun battle, and we turned our whole office into like this war zone, and it was the most fun ever. And I remember feeling so energized and happy to come to work the next day because no one else is doing that.
Well, guess who else is going to do it? Me. I'm ordering those Nerf guns today because my teenager is ready to kill me at this point, and I need to shake it out. Okay, thank you for a good idea.
You're welcome. We'll send you the video of it. We'll come for Housecall versus Corcoran Group duel.
Yeah, something like that.
I hate to tell you I'm going to win, by the way. I'll play dirty.
All right.
See, always in the gray. I like it. That's how we like to roll. So Barbara, obviously we've had an awesome time here just getting to ask you questions. We were able to get you on the show because when I asked Mark Cuban, who would you bring on the show? Who would you be willing to refer us to? He said your name. Do you have somebody in mind, maybe another shark that you think would be able to give all these golden nuggets to our pros who are just kind of craving this information, looking to do some public service and inspire them?
Well, let me give that a little thought as to who I might recommend. How did you get Mark on the show? Who recommended him?
Brooks, you want to cover this?
He and I have a common friend, and I remember I sent an email to Mark probably 10, 12 years ago, Barbara. He responded inside of 20 minutes. I couldn't believe it. Here this iconic, unbelievably successful entrepreneur, and he's checking his inbox and responding quickly with some really thoughtful advice. So I knew we'd done something special to honor our pros in this SMB community with this show. And I thought, okay, every 10 years I can reach out to Mark Cuban. I sent him an email. Sure enough, within 10, 15 minutes, he got back to us, said, love to be on it. Talk to my assistant, we'll get it worked out. And sure enough, he was on the show within 4 or 5 days. It was unbelievable. But you know what? As he said, look, you got to have the hustle. You got to be one to have the ask. And I just had the ask. So lucky us.
He values that tremendously. You're right. Yeah.
I even sent him an email after he accepted my friend request on Facebook. So it's real. And I know we have 3 more minutes with you. So Brooks, do you want to ask our last question to Barbara?
Yeah, it's just a theme, Barbara, and you've already given so many unbelievable insights today. And I can tell you, I want to say this for the record, we were so excited to have you on the show because listening to your podcast, it's just pure inspiration, right? You just lift people up and you set them on their way. And I want to just thank you for that, because I think everyone right now in this world of ours, which is upside down, they all need inspiration. You are perfect on that front. I also like, though, to think about what's actionable, right? So is there one thing that our pros, our customers should think about doing tomorrow, right? Because it has to start with the first step or the first mile in that 100-mile race. What would be your one idea that you think they should focus on come tomorrow morning?
That would apply to all different trades. I would make kind of what I do with all my investments when I have my first meeting with them, and I think it applies here. I would sit down and make a list of where you got every single customer from. Tedious. Put their name, what the deal was that you got from them, you know, whatever, however you fraction out your services, where it was, and then think, where did that customer come from? Okay. And then put the source. It's amazing to me how few entrepreneurs know their large sources of business. When I do this with my entrepreneurs, they find out and they're shocked. They've been in business 4 years, 6 years now, some of them, and they're shocked that 70% of their business came from 2 trade shows that were 4 years ago. Yeah. And they don't do trade shows anymore. Like, what? Or it comes through the wife's social connections who made the connection here or there. You have to know where your business comes from. I think you do that for yourself. The source of every piece of business. And then think to yourself, could I do more of it? How do I do more of it? And if it's gone away, that source, and it ain't going to come back, what could I substitute? What could I
love that idea. Yeah. Know your customer, know where you've been lucky, know where you've been fortunate, and just do more of the same, right? Put good against good. That's a great idea.
Do and forget about the old thing that worked. You know, both are important.
Terrific. Well, thank you for that insight. That's a great little golden nugget for our audience. I'm sure they're going to appreciate it. So thank you again. Alexa?
Thank you so much for joining us. This was incredible. I can't wait to rewatch this and take more notes.
Okay. And you, young lady, you should have your own business. Leave your boss soon.
All right. You heard her, guys. Moving to New York City. I'm going to be a producer.
And to your bosses, let me say, you should make sure you pay her well to make sure you keep her and promote her.
This is the best call of my life. I'll be reaching out. I'll have my people reach out to your people, Barbara. We'll see what we can do together.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you again for joining us. We appreciate your time and talk soon.
Thanks, Barbara.
Thank you so much.
I'll be reaching out to you for an introduction.
Okay, great. Bye-bye.
You guys, how cool was that interview with Barbara?
That was super fun.
I mean, you guys saw me taking notes. I hope you were too, but we actually have a handout for you. I'm going to post a link where you can download it. But right now, we just wanted to take a few minutes and reflect on the interview and talk about some of the key themes throughout that we want to leave you with. So my first observation, really from the beginning of our interview with Barbara until the very end when she left, is to just be open and observant to what is going on around you, to not be afraid to look across the street or virtually online in the Facebook community. And that's where you should be looking for inspiration. And my biggest takeaway, the whole time you guys could probably tell, I was trying to tie what she was saying back to the trades and how it applies to the home service industry. And I think traditionally the home service industry, it's looked as not a creative field and something that you can't be creative with. And that is just so absolutely not true. Like, you guys are in the Facebook group. I see what you're doing. So really take that thought and apply it, because that's what's gonna up level you from your competitor, is your ability to be open, observant, and be creative and encourage creativity in your business. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, Mel and Roland.
Well, first, I just want to say that I think Barbara wants to adopt Alexa, and I think I need to give her half of like my next 10 paychecks to make sure that Alexa stays with us here every night on the home service evening update. So congratulations for quite the impression that you made. She is so charming.
Loved her.
She really is. So here's my big takeaway. All of you, all of us are in the people business. It's not real estate. It's not software. It's not HVAC. It's not plumbing. It's not home cleaning. All of us are in the people business. And as some of our viewers who've been here every night know, I spent 15 years at the grocery store, Trader Joe's. We sold groceries, but we were really in the people business, right? Fantastic employees with personalities and kindness that, you know, can deliver up hummus and organic olive oil with a smile. So hire happy people. You know, you can't fix people. If they're coming in and they're already in a place where they've got high technical skill, but they're struggling in lots of other areas, like let those people focus on that struggle as opposed to trying to think that you're going to fix everyone. So many people get frustrated by hiring and who they have on their team. And I wonder sometimes if we are blinded by technical skill and ability and the talent to get the job done, but lacking the talent to empathize, to connect. So we're in the people business, every single one of us, and especially everyone in the home services. It's called home services. I mean, what is more people oriented than someone's home? So that was my huge takeaway. I'm like, she's not in real estate. She's in the people business, and so are we.
That is
Yeah,
the biggest.
and I feel like building on that piece too is obviously that creativity. You know, it's not just going to come from you. It's going to come from your happy employees that you hire. And so use everyone's talents to come up with stuff. I feel like that was a big key takeaway for me. The box idea, so clever, and make it really easy for people to not feel like there's any stupid ideas. There's just ideas. Some happen to work and some happen to not work. So keep those flowing. And I feel like on just the innovation front of things, you know, it was really clear that she was looking always for like an extra 2 steps ahead, or how is this connected to this thing, and what is this industry doing? She didn't mention it on the podcast, but one thing she did early on was she saw in a newspaper another company was advertising just with their face, and she's like, why can't I do this for real estate? So Barbara was the first one to advertise as a real estate agent, you know, with her face in the newspaper, like a full page ad.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like stealing those types of things, those ideas, and seeing how that works. That is super critical. And I hear all the time, you know, our pros talking about, you know, plumbers, well, I can't use the carpet cleaners one, or I can't use the HVAC one. I hear like, no, but yeah, it's different. It's yes, learn from everybody, learn from one another. We've got a community for you guys, and make sure that you guys take that inspiration and then do it because that's what Barbara was doing. She was just doing it. She was doing those ribbons, you know, the gold ribbons, the hippopotamus. She just did it. It was an idea that popped in her head. She just did it. She didn't think about it. She didn't worry about it too much. If it was stupid, even if it was stupid in a little bit in the first part, and everyone's kind of like, oh, this is kind of a joke. In the end, like she told, you know, everyone's doing the gold ribbons, and there was not a cubicle that didn't have gold ribbons. So feel free to try stuff. And I felt really inspired by that, and just hearing it once again from her.
It was even better the second time. I have even more notes now than I did the first time. But speaking of continuing to innovate and be 2 steps in front of yourself, I just posted the link in the chat to where you can download the 10 takeaways from Barbara. So we actually attached it to an article we made on how to offer gift cards, because that is a really creative idea. You heard her. She was disappointed that her dress lady wasn't thinking outside the box and delivering to her door. I know Mel wants that service now.
I want that dress lady.
The dress lady. So be that person who thinks outside the box. I think gift cards are a really good place to start. I've been seeing it more and more now, but right at the very top, you're going to see a download here, and it's the 10 takeaways from tonight. So we would love to hear what your takeaways are. We'll start a thread on Facebook. We would love to hear your thoughts on tonight's interview and who else you want us to bring on. That would be really exciting for us too. So, and Isaac asks, is there a takeaway list for Mark's interview? Not right now, Isaac, but it's probably a good idea to create one. So I'll put in that request and we'll create a key takeaway. We should probably do that with Jocko as well, because this key takeaway list is awesome. So
yeah, the PDF will include, I feel like we, I also put it in, if you text files to 31996, if you just text that in, you click that link, it'll take you to a Google Drive that's open, that's got all kinds of stuff in it. Some of the coronavirus packs, those things, but we'll add these PDFs in there too for you guys. So I'll actually go do that right now. As you were saying, I was like, let's just do it there, because sometimes it's easy to go there too. So if you guys want to do that, it's files, I'll put it right in here, files to 31996.
And I'll put that in Facebook right now. Files to 31996.
Perfect.
Yep.
Awesome. So on Facebook, Rob George asked, haha, but did you get an introduction, Roland? And so we are in the process of it. Her awesome assistant let us know that Barbara will be connecting us with some people. We sent over a list, so stay tuned there, but we still want to hear who you want to see on this broadcast. And this is our last one of the week. We'll be back Monday. We have a really awesome lineup for you again next week. We're starting off with Krista Coral. She is the former CEO of OpenTable and former CFO of Nextdoor. And we know a lot of you use Nextdoor, or you all know what it is. And we are going to be talking about consumer, just the state of the consumer. She has really, really interesting points of view with the data to back up consumer habits right now and what you need to be doing to cater to those. So join us at 5 p.m. there, and Mel will be talking with her about having radical candor with your employees and why effective employee feedback is vital to you having a successful business, and teaching you some tips there.
Bring your questions. We'll answer them.
Yes. So we will see you all in the Facebook group. We would love to know what your takeaways were with Barbara. And yeah, we will talk to you on Monday. See you guys. Thank you for joining us.
Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to all.
Happy Mother's Day. See you guys Monday.
Bye, guys.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Mom. I love you.